The US government has snapped right back at China and its World Trade Organization official lodgement of a protest and complaint over America's EV tax breaks. The ambassador for America has called China a hypocrite, just saying they're just utter hypocrites. Now, are they right? Well, there's a bit more to this story. Here's what America had to say in response to China's very, very harsh criticisms. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the channel. I'm Sam Evans. You're watching The Electric Viking. Great to see you. Ambassador Catherine Tai has called out China's unfair non-market policies and practices. And you know what? I support what America is saying here, guys. I've had a lot of people unsubscribe because I support it. I feel like I'm a realist. I'm just being objective here, but I know there's a lot of emotional sentiment against the US at the moment. Not sure why that is. And now the American ambassador has praised the Inflation Reduction Act and says that China was undermining fair competition. The European Union agrees with America. The World Trade Organization and Tai's office are reviewing the consultation request. They're, basically looking at it to see, is the Chinese government right? Is America acting illegally? The United States Trade Ambassador Catherine Tai responded to China's World Trade Organization consultation request with some stinging criticism. She says that not only is China using unfair practices to undermine fair competition, such as, well, in some cases, forced labor, but it also leverages non-market practices and policies. The request to the World Trade Organization is still in limbo. We don't exactly know what's happening, but it could lead to changes in the Act or countermeasures. China says the Inflation Reduction Act unfairly tilts the playing field and discriminates when it comes to electric cars, and discriminates just against China, basically. This complaint has come after the US restricted the number of electric cars that qualify for the $7,500 credit. Basically, you pretty much have to make your electric car now in North America for it to qualify for the EV incentives. Now, of course, America does say that parts can't come from countries like China, Russia, North Korea, and Iran. Now, for whatever reason, Russia, North Korea, and Iran seem to believe it's a fair thing for America to do. China does not. So, it's levied a consultation request with the World Trade Organization. Ambassador Tai's remarks, they're coming as a direct denunciation of that consultation request. She's basically saying, this is absolutely ridiculous. The Inflation Reduction Act is a groundbreaking tool for the United States to seriously address the global climate crisis and invest in US economic competitiveness, basically to get American car companies to build electric cars, to take it seriously. It is our contribution to a clean energy future that we are collectively seeking with our allies and partners. No doubt, to a degree, the Act has forced some companies to change plans so that their products can take full advantage of the tax credits offered. Now, realistically, most EVs, they don't qualify at the moment. It's not just Chinese-made EVs, and most of them don't qualify for the full $7,500 tax credit. The Tesla Model 3 doesn't qualify for all of it. Only qualifies, I believe, for half of the credit because the battery cells themselves come from CATL and they're manufactured in China, even though the lithium actually comes from an American partner, Australia. Tai then took to calling out China's, well, she believes, hypocritical comments. Meanwhile, the PRC continues to use unfair non-market policies and practices to undermine fair competition and pursue the dominance of the PRC's manufacturers both in the PRC itself and in global markets. The United States will continue to work with allies and partners to address the PRC's unfair non-market policies and practices, she said. Now, realistically, SAIC, they are a Chinese-owned automaker, state government owned, Shanghai. But the truth is that, it's basically owned by the Chinese government, and they do ship electric cars outside of China. So the fact that China obviously is subsidizing its own EV companies because it owns its own companies, some of them, many of them, in fact, the Chinese government owned, kind of makes them right. I mean, MG Motors, their EVs are sold at low prices outside of China. And the government obviously is intending to get market share in other countries. So it'd be like General Motors selling cheap products in China that are made in America. But General Motors is owned by the American government. That's not happening, right? Because I don't think China would want to allow that. All of this hullabaloo could amount to very little aside from political wrangling. As Carscoop said yesterday, this dispute could take a while to conclude. If the World Trade Organization were to find in favor of China, it's likely the US would appeal that decision. Appealing will take extra time since the appeals board has been defunct since 2019, when America opposed its judgment appointments. China isn't the only foreign nation with negative feelings about the IRA. Japan, South Korea, and the European Union have all voiced their concerns over the act. But keep in mind, Japan, Europe, and South Korea have subsidized their own automotive industries to the tune of more than $100 billion over the past 20 years alone. The Inflation Reduction Act, of course, is basically a tool for the American government to try to encourage local manufacturing and building EVs in America, in Canada, even in Mexico. And it wants to address the climate issues as well. I mean, not just climate issues, but I think it's also about being able to live in New York City and not be killing yourself because you're choking on fumes every day. The US says it is our contribution to a clean energy future that we collectively seek with our allies and partners. Meanwhile, the PRC continues to use unfair non-market policies and practices to undermine fair competition and pursue the dominance of the PRC's manufacturers, both the PRC and in local global markets. So the United States government is making the point here to say many of these car companies that are selling cars outside of China are owned by the Chinese government. So, of course, they're incentivizing themselves. Under President Biden's leadership, we are tackling the climate crisis while strengthening America's supply chains and energy security. We are building a clean energy economy powered by American innovators, workers, and manufacturers that will create good paying union jobs. Now, I'm not sure I necessarily agree with that because union jobs have been lost at a record rate over the past 12 months. If you basically join the union, you're going to lose your job, 50% chance. Now, not really, but I'm exaggerating, but come on, guys. We've seen more than 25,000 union jobs be lost over the past 12 months. So I'm not sure that's really working out for them. But anyway, the US says it will cut the pollution that drives climate change and environmental injustice. Now, through this bold action, the United States will continue to pursue major new investments in clean energy technology from solar and wind to batteries and electric vehicles and beyond. Do you agree with what America is saying? I don't think that the Inflation Reduction Act is perfect. It's not perfect. I mean, there's never going to be a perfect act. But it's a hell of a lot better than nothing. And I don't believe China is playing fair here. I agree with America. It's hypocrisy. But, subscribe or unsubscribe or whatever. And let me know what you think in the comments. Thanks for watching.